Hi, welcome to the new series of videos on my channel. In the previous video, I explained that in this series I'm going to talk about the old days of VHS and DVD and the whole circumstances, how we search for certain films, how we watch certain films and how we watch films but not just the circumstances, also about the films themselves. So you're going to get a complete picture. I'm going to review films and I'm going to talk about the circumstances, how we saw them in the, let's say, old days. In this particular episode, I'm going to talk about the subject which is very dear to my heart, very close to me, which is how I became a horror film fan, how I became a fan of horror films. So let's rewind the tape some 28 years ago. 28 years ago, when I was 8 years old, I really became a horror film fan. I will mention a couple of things that happened before that too, to give you a complete picture. So for a start, I don't think I mentioned my name really in this channel. I'm Sasha, and for the start, I grew up in Serbia in the 1990s, which was a pretty chaotic time for the country and chaotic time to grow up. But when it comes to that, my parents were pretty strict when it comes to protecting me from all the media craziness, all the media, the reports from the war lines and things like that. They pretty much protected me from that. I hadn't seen really that much or at all, very little. They were very strict when it comes to that. They protected me from the media violence and the media craziness, propaganda, everything. So I'm going to talk about the fiction here, of course, my love for horror fiction and how it all started. When it comes to the films generally, the first thing I remember really what I was watching as a little kid, like 3-4 years old, I do remember watching Disney cartoons, the short and the feature-length ones. I do remember my parents were recording them on the VHS tapes for me to watch, and I do remember Disney cartoons. And I might have seen some creepy stuff there, but I don't remember specifically. But I do remember seeing some stuff. I think in Fantasia or it was in some other shorter cartoons. But I do remember seeing some of the, let's say, horror elements there. But the first thing that really, where I really became like aware that I'm watching something like scary and that was intended to scare me, was I think when I saw, and this is kind of embarrassing because I really cannot really remember the name of the film, and my memory might be foggy. It might be a combination of several scenes, but I do remember I'm going to describe what I remember. I remember the scene where the guy and the girl are laying in bed, and I think it was like a girlfriend-boyfriend, and he starts kind of shaking and shaking and transforming into a beast, into a monster, into a werewolf. And then so he starts shaking and like kind of he's having a transformation, I think, and then she uncovers him. That's what I remember. She uncovers him, and then we suddenly see like his body transformed into a, I think, werewolf. It was a werewolf, and that really got me. That really shocked me because I didn't expect that. I mean, yes, he started acting a little strange and all of that, but that really, I didn't expect to see that suddenly, like she uncovering him, and he like suddenly transformed into this thing, and that really, like, I was like, I was pretty shocked when I saw that, and now it might be a combination of several scenes because I still cannot remember the exact film where it came from. It was obviously it's not in American Werewolf in London, I think not in American Werewolf in London, not in Howling. There are several similar scenes there, but not specifically like this. There's some similar moments, but not like this one. And there are several other, of course. There are quite a lot of werewolf films in the 80s that came as a result of like this whole wave of that came as a result of the American Werewolf in London, and Howling was from their influence, obviously. So I don't know. My memory is foggy when it comes to this, and it might be a combination of several scenes, but that's what I remember. But that's not really when I really became a horror film fan. The moment when I really started liking horror films and became like a full-blown horror film fan was when I saw Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4. So it was not even the first one, like Part 4. And that was when I was 8 years old. I was how it all started. Well, we were on a school trip. I was second grade of elementary school, which means I was 8 years old, and we were on a school trip for a week. So it was a long school trip, and we were in the mountains skiing and things like that. And you know, in the evening before we went to bed, we were like gather and talk about either the video games we played or the games we played during the day, or the films we saw. And I remember almost everybody was talking about the Freddy Krueger movies. They didn't mention specifically the name Nightmare on Elm Street, but they mentioned like Freddy Krueger this, Freddy Krueger that. You know, I saw this film with Freddy Krueger doing this and that. And then later, when I saw the films, I realized how some of the descriptions they gave were wildly exaggerated. That some of these things didn't really happen in the movies, in the Nightmare on Elm Street series. But still, you know, I became very. But some of them did. I mean, some of them were very correct. But I became very interested. It sounded different from what I was seeing. Up to that point, what I was watching, and so my parents really didn't forbid me from watching horror films, but they mostly allow me to watch some mild stuff or something like mostly like a fantasy with some scary stuff, scary moments. But it was mostly like that, and I'm going to talk about these movies also, the other movies that I saw from that during that period in some of the subsequent videos. But here, you know, I became on that school trip. I really became interested in seeing this Freddy Krueger movie or movies. I wasn't sure they were talking about if they were talking about this one movie or several of them. And when I came back from the school trip, I mentioned to my parents that I wanna rent and watch a Freddy Krueger movie, and they were like, absolutely not. No, absolutely not. They say no, you cannot, because they did remember. They remembered them from the 80s. They saw some of them when they came out in the 80s, and I think some of the films or all of the films up to that were made up to that point, Nightmare on Elm Street films, were shown on television a couple of years before that. So they saw them. So a couple of years before that moment, and plus they saw them in the 80s, some of them. So they knew about them, and they were like, no, you cannot watch Freddy Krueger. You're too young for that. And I was like, okay, you know, I cannot watch them. I cannot watch Freddy Krueger movie or movies. I still wasn't sure, the next day, literally the next day, I went to the video club where I would rent films. One of the video clubs, I was a member of several of them, and I was as soon as I entered the video club, I saw this VHS tape with the name of it on it, which said "Noćna mora u ulici Brestova 4," which in Serbian means Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4. And I didn't make any connection with Freddy Krueger because nobody mentioned the name Nightmare on Elm Street at that school trip. So I asked the guy who was working there. He was an older teenager, a kid who was, I think, being there instead of his father. And I asked him, do you have a Freddy Krueger movie? And he said, yeah, we have. And I said, is this movie good? I asked him about this Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4 movie. Is this movie good? And he said, yeah, it is. That's Freddy Krueger movie. And I was like, oh, really? That's Freddy Krueger movie. Okay, give me that one. And he gave me. And I don't think if his dad was working that day, I don't think that his dad would really give me would really do that, but he did, and his son did, and I went home with Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, and my parents were like, oh, went berserk, like, oh, you rented the exact thing we told you not to rent, you know, how could you do that, and started shouting at me. But in the end, which was surprisingly, in the end, they were like, okay, watch it, whatever, watch it. So they allowed me to watch it. And I put on the film, and from the very first moment, from the very first notes of the intro song and the Nightmare on Elm Street logo and the intro song Nightmare by Tuesday Night, the actress who plays Kristen in the film, who replaced Patricia Arquette, of course, from the previous film, she sang and she composed that song. From the very first notes of that song and the New Line Cinema logo, I fell in love completely with the film. It really very much piqued my interest, and then as the movie went on, I really fell in love with the film. It was like very creepy that song at that point. That song really felt, and still kind of is. I mean, when I watch it, but it really felt creepy, and as the movie was very different from anything I saw up to that point, and from anything I expected to see. It was very colorful. It was very imaginative. It was very. As Robert Englund said once that Rennie Harlin basically directed an MTV Nightmare on Elm Street movie, Part 4, which kind of is true. I mean, it's certainly a very colorful sequel, I mean, but it was unlike anything I've seen before, like this. The way the certain scenes which are like normal or seemingly normal scenes morph into something different, nightmarish, and the whole surreal moments of Screaming Mad George effects and all of that. It was and the Freddy Krueger, I mean, and all of that. The complete. It was like unlike anything I've seen up to that point. Very different from what I expected and from what I've seen. And I fell in love completely. Like, I became like a big horror film fan and a big Nightmare on Elm Street fan. And after that I rented the order was I rented Part 5 after that, Part 6, Part 7, New Nightmare, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and then Part 3, Part 2, Part 1. That's how I saw them. So it was a little messed up. The order was kind of messed up. I'm not kind of, but completely messed up. But still, I'm going to talk about my experience with that in some of the subsequent videos, watching the other sequels and the other Nightmare on Elm Street films. But really, I mean, this was the moment, the defining moment for me when I became a horror film fan, which I still am to this day. And I'm very grateful to, Rennie Harlin and Wes Craven and Bob Shea and Robert Englund and everybody from the crew for that. I mean, it's still so dear to my heart. I mean, it's still the one of my. It's my second favorite film of all time. I'm going to talk about my favorite films. The first one is one of my favorite films of all time, but the others are not. Much different, and I'm going to talk about that in some of the subsequent videos. But that's all for now. I mean, for this video, I in the next video, I'm probably going to talk about the other Nightmare on Elm Street sequels and my experience with them, or about some of the other, perhaps about some of the science fiction films I saw during that period. In any case, thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.